Closing arguments are wrapping up in the murder trial of a Lincolnville man accused of killing his childhood best friend. 48-year-old Matthew Pendleton's charged with the murder of 47-year-old Kevin Currit, who was living with him at the time of his death in January of last year. Prosecutors say Currit had new injuries and abrasions throughout his body, which are not consistent with the defense's theory of what happened. The state says the autopsy shows Currit's death was strangulation. The defense disagrees with those claims, saying Currit already had multiple injuries from falling due to his extensive alcohol use that includes broken ribs. They say Currit's records show he was not on his seizure medication and that he may have had seizures and fell on an object that caused a mark on his neck. Jury is expected to start deliberating soon.